You're welcome. The question is, how did they get the slaves? The Africans sold Africans. It started with Prince Henry the Navigator between 1441 and 1444. Even when the first slave is not an African word, it's from Eastern Europe, from Slavs. They were enslaved by the English, the Dutch, the French, the Germans. When they began to look for a name to qualify bondage, they chose the name from that eastern country. Slavery is not synonymous with the black people, but everything changed during the transatlantic slave trade. It became based on skin color. When they first came on the shores, African kingdoms didn't want them to come close to their towns. Do you know what they said? They said, oh, we are researchers, we are anthropologists, we are archaeologists. Allow us to stay close to our sheep. And they allowed them to stay close to their sheep. While they were around there, they realized that these black people don't even speak the same language. Oh, these black people have different ethnic groups. Oh, they even fight wars. Good. They don't speak the same language. All right. They use all that against us. They became friends with kingdoms that are not very big. They became friends with small kingdom, probably that is at loggerhead with a bigger kingdom, because the Europeans, when they came, the big kingdoms was always a threat to them. So what they heard that there is gold, everything they learned about us, they learned from the Arabs. The Arabs were here before they came. They were here for over 1,300 years. So they learned how to speak Arabic so that they can read Arabic historical books on Africa. So who live the sun now? They've been enslaving themselves before they ever came here. So Kinta Kinte, how did they get slaves from here? But the slaves they met here when they first came, one, Africans, using Yoruba land as a case study. The question is, how did they get the slaves? A rapist, the penalty for a rapist was death penalty. Armed robbers, killers, death penalty. Now, instead of killing them, they realized that, look, instead of killing them, let's sell them. Criminals. Then there are different groups, villages and towns. So they didn't come here because they love wars. From day one, all the slaving instruments you see were not manufactured here in Africa. They came with everything. Slaves they were brought from the hinterland, they didn't use chain on them, they used wood. The slaves that you see with chains, those chains the Europeans brought them. Kinta Kinte was sold. He could have been a victim of wars. But because they needed so many people, they needed a lot of people, so they become friends with a particular ethnic group or a kingdom. They show them or give them European items, like the bottle, which you see some of them, the umbrella, and they show them the importance, and they make them feel that they love them, that they are their friends. They entice them with us. So they use those ones as slave raiders. They use them to get to the hinterland. Africans were not stupid, that they were just going from one place to the other and capturing each other and selling. It started from a point and it elevated to certain point. Before they came with a target, called a ship, a slave ship. So, and they came from Europe. So it's because they are coming here for slaves. It was intentional. Now, Lagos Island, there was nothing like Lagos Island that time. It was the colony of Lagos. So at the colony of Lagos, we began to have returnees from the Americas. And those who returned back, especially those who came from Brazil, we have what they call the Imale Revolt in Brazil. Now, it's the Yoruba Muslims that are called Imale in Nigeria. And they were the ones that organized the slave revolt in Brazil. They write our own story, and wars produce slaves. And it didn't just happen here, it was a universal phenomenon that time. Who is Cherokee William Kuba? Behind you are items, European items in Badagry. The value of an umbrella is 40 human beings. You want the European umbrella, they gave you one umbrella in exchange for 40 human beings. Where is the origin? Of course, the origin of the umbrella is China, a bottle of gin. Then the displaces 5 human beings. A ceramic bowl, they call it breakable plate in Nigeria. I can't imagine how many plates you broke. In some places 5 human beings, in some places 10 human beings. A game gun, 40 human beings was the value of a gun. Items such as the mirror and the crab beats were also used in exchange, but they don't have specific numbers depending on the bargaining power. The big cannon gun, 100 human beings. The small cannon gun, 40 human beings were used in exchange. But do you also know who determined the prices of items? What did Africa benefit from the slave trade? The trans-Saharan slave trade was organized by the Arabs across the Saharan Desert. The transatlantic slave trade across the Atlantic Ocean, organized by the Europeans. Did the Africans ever benefit from the trans-Saharan slave trade? No. It was even more terrible because it brought problems to us. And part of the problem is what we are going through in North Africa. What they did was that when they came, those big kingdoms, now Mali is a very great country that Africans don't really understand. Don't say this compound are all slave stuff. Now, can you see that little window over there? Can you see that little window like that of their prison? All the windows of this compound looks like. And when you get inside, that's what you see. That was called the overseer. So he will go into the inner room, bring the enslaved people here. Here they inspect the eyes, the dentition, they hit them in the stomach to be sure they're strong enough to work on the plantation before they are being placed there. But in the middle of the 19th century, because there were so many of them around, they began to put them in the compound. So they kept 40 here, another 40 in the slave trade in West Africa. Either by force or by choice, we are very sorry. Now, it's Nigerian Post Office. It's the second post office in Nigeria. The first one is at Ejiri, around Epe, in Lagos. The ancestors were kept here. 40 homes. Minimum of 1,200 slaves kept here for like 2 months, 1 month, depending on when the European ship arrives at the point of no return. What cannot come out of your mouth? Now, the type of slave that they detest most, that they really hate, is slaves that run away or slaves that try to escape. Any runaway slave that is recovered, that is found, they put their feet maybe on a falling truck or on a platform, and they put this on their feet, maybe a wood or hammer, and they use it to break the bones on the feet. Now, they don't want to torture the runaway slave, they only want to torture the feet and try to escape. And most times, some of them end up dying because nobody takes care of the feet and the infection will settle in and they die as a result of that. So I need a apology. Now, we talked about the slaves. We saw a slave, that had chain tied around his waist. Now, this is the type of chain that was tied around his waist. So I want you to come and hold it and see how heavy it is. Tie it around your waist. With the weight, you cannot float. You can't carry your neck. Wait. This is called the line, and this is called the neck lock. So this is the line, this is the neck lock. Now the length, how long the line is, determines how many neck lock there will be on the line. So now when they put this around the neck, they don't just split it, they still lock it. The neckline behind his neck, the bones behind his neck. So and it's pulling his neck downward. So it means that if they have to wear this every day, how sharp it is. Because they drink water once a day, so they struggle and fight to drink water, because if you don't drink that moment, it's at the same time the following day. So while struggling, they end up cutting each other, they cut themselves, blood will spill into the water, but they don't care. They drink the water along with the blood. You're welcome to Badagry. Their ankles. They were naked, but they were not seeing each other's nakedness. Where they are taking them to. So okay, maybe on our way coming back. Okay, Tabambo. of their head. They look like bushes, strong one. How come they drink the water, they lose their memory, they become weak? But to me, that is not important to me. What is important to me? Ìyàwó ẹ̀ ń gé gbìngbìn, kí lorúkọ